It's like a freight train coming at you that can't be stopped. It's unstoppable. And in fact, it's being fueled even more with calls for lower rates, with a weaker currency here. And it's accelerating, and it's going to hit all of us broadside with such ferocity that people are not going to know what happened to them.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin weekly specials for August 5th through August 12th, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature 2024 1-ounce silver American Eagles at $5.50 over spot. Next, we have backdated 1-ounce silver Austrian Philharmonics at just $3.10 over spot. We also have Dealer's Choice Constitutional Silver half dollars at $2.50 over spot per ounce. Next, backdated 1-ounce gold American Buffalo are just $99 over spot. And finally, we have a limited quantity of 1-ounce silver full-color Trump Fight for America bars, just $6 over spot. They come 20 to a sheet, and so have a minimum order of 20 and are sold in multiples of 20. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're always delighted to have this wildly popular returning guest. Gregory Mannarino is the founder of TradersChoice.net. He's a student of all markets and a trading coach. He joins us this Tuesday, August 6, 2024. Greg, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Thanks for having me, bro. I'm really happy to be here as always, and you're just awesome, bro. Really. You and your people are awesome.
Well, we are very grateful for our subscribers, and we're delighted that last month YouTube sent us a plaque for 100,000 plus subscribers. I think we shared that with you last time we had you on. We wanted to thank all our viewers and subscribers, and actually half of our viewers are not yet subscribers. So we're talking to you guys. If you aren't yet subscribers, just go click the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, and you'll help to push us to the next level. Greg, you've grown your channel wildly over the past couple of years, and providing multiple times per day publications so people can follow what's going on and almost in real time. We'll talk about that again at the end, how they can stay connected with you. Right now, we wanted you to give us your insight into these wild markets that we've been seeing. A lot of turbulence, a lot of volatility, not just in the US, but all over the world, and not just in the stock markets, but in bonds and in precious metals and everything. So you've been a force of kind of a calming voice to those subscribing to your channel. I've been listening to your broadcasts about that, talking about normal market action. But interestingly, we've been hearing calls for emergency rate cuts from those who are expecting the Fed to have to basically rescue the market. So can you bring us up to date on your latest thinking on what's going on with these volatile markets, whether this is a significant turn of events or just a typical correction, and what you expect to see from officialdom in response to this turbulence?
Absolutely. Look, first of all, it's all hype, and let's just set the stage here. Right now, we are entering a time of a seasonal volatility here in the market. That's number one. This started just about 2 weeks ago. It will play out for the rest of this month. And then secondly, we got geopolitics playing into it. So, and I warned about this 2 weeks ago. I said, we're going to see extreme moves in this market. And that's exactly what has happened here. With regard to the debt market, what we're seeing here, absolutely, you nailed it to the wall. We're seeing a ripple effect of this throughout the markets, including the currency markets here, the carry trade, all that stuff here. What's going on really, and this started weeks ago, we started to see a phenomenon where central banks, they're buying all the debt. They're buying it all. And here in the United States, we've literally watched the 10-year yield fall off of a cliff. As a matter of fact, the action that we've seen here with regard in the United States with regard to the 10-year yield, I never before in all the years I've been in this have I witnessed a drop, such a significant drop in the 10-year yield. Again, what the market is doing, you have to understand, the market is a forward-looking entity. It prices in things that are going to happen, that are actually happening. And this is why traders, for example, traders always get caught on the wrong side and they wonder why. Not always, but generally they will, because they don't understand the dynamics here. The Nikkei, for example, they were calling it a crash. They would say, oh, this is it. This was just yesterday. The market has crashed now today. And then it rebounded like 10%. The shorts got destroyed. Because why? The traders are trying to capitalize in real time. If you're not ahead of it, you're behind it. And you're going to get wiped out. Here in the United States, as another example here, yesterday, a record-setting day for puts or bets against the S&P 500. As we are doing this, the market's up 500, the Dow alone. And these people are going to get destroyed too. It's unfortunate they don't understand dynamics of this market. It's too easy. In fact, it's so easy, it's stupid. So what we're seeing here, this effect of massive asset purchases here. And clearly it's the central banks getting in here. They're buying it all. What is their goal? To be the lenders and buyers of a last resort. They are clearly moving towards that as we move forward. And we're hearing, and you have to understand, and I think people get it here, we're hearing the same nonsense out of both prospective presidential people here. Harris and Trump are selling us the same trickle-down economics nonsensical scam that the whole world is locked into. Every developed nation in this world is locked into some form of trickle-down economics, meaning let's make the rich more powerful and richer, and you're going to benefit from it. Well, how's that working out for everybody? It's not working. It doesn't work. It's a lie. I wrote a couple of papers on this recently, The Lie of Economic Lies. I don't know if you've seen it. Just came out recently, or I go over it, this economic lie that's being forced on people. And I actually suggested an alternative system to it. And I put it out. People went crazy. They're like, wow, Greg, this would actually work. And it would. It's basically opposite of what we're hearing. Trump and Harris are pushing the same economic agenda here. That is lower rates. We promise to lower rates. This is what we're hearing. And a weaker dollar. How does that help anybody? It doesn't. It's trickle down. It helps the 1% and 2%ers while destroying everybody else. That's what we're seeing here. Is it's being priced into the markets. It's rebalancing in many, many ways. But again, this is seasonality. This is geopolitics here. What's going on in the Middle East or may happen at any moment. And look, it's too obvious to me. And it's too simple to understand what we need to do to stay on the right side. People are panicking. Do people actually realize? Of course they don't. But over the last 9 months alone, the S&P 500 is up 25%. Meanwhile, people are going crazy over this 2-day drop, Monday through Friday, that followed through Friday, and then followed through on Monday, because that's what the media does. Oh no, it's scary. Run for the hills. Emergency rate cut. I can't believe that. And you're absolutely right. That they floated out some creatures, and I forget, it probably was every single one of these mainstream media outlets. Emergency rate cut. This would be the worst possible thing that could happen, because it would send a signal to the market that things are very wrong. Things are very wrong. And the faster the economy comes down, I've been telling people this for years, the higher the market's going to go. And we haven't seen it yesterday. I added to I'm building a position. I've been building it for a while. I'm very, very exposed to the market right now. And I'm looking for every opportunity to gain more exposure on the long end, meaning I believe the market's going up. The phenomenon here, again, promises of lower rates. This is the Kamala Trump economic solution that they're offering us here. All this does is empower the Federal Reserve, quite obviously. Everyone with half a brain cell, don't even need one, understands the mechanism. Trickle down don't work. It's not working for anybody. All it does do is fulfill the corporate agenda here, and it obviously helps the Federal Reserve. The issue of lower rates, it's a beautiful thing for corporations here that trade overseas. They take advantage of the exchange rate, and of course they get more rich off of that. And the weaker dollar, obviously, is really the root cause of this. What's going to go on? So we're going to get both lower rates here, which are going to obviously how this works. People don't have any idea. Let's just put this into perspective real quick. Okay, the promise of lower rates, who does that really help? How does that help people? All it allows them to do is take on oceans of more debt. We just found out today that credit card debt, a new all-time record high. Household debt keeps skyrocketing here. People have no alternative here, again, because of the economic situation over the last three presidents who have done more to empower the Fed than any other three, before them going back to George Washington. But anyway, when you hear this kind of thing with regard to lower rates, this is how it works. It allows corporations to borrow next to nothing. When these corporations, they go out and they sell their debt, corporate debt, also known as high yield, and they capitalize on that. They borrow for it's almost like a carry trade in many ways here. So they're benefiting and profiting more so. But people can't do that. People take on debt. They can't finance that debt another way like the corporations do. And again, going back to this weaker dollar that were being promised repeatedly out of Trump's mouth more specifically, and now Kamala as well, saying the same thing. So we can rest assured here that the mechanism of allowing the Fed to become even more powerful moving forward is going to be in full swing, and I think to a much greater degree than even we've seen ever before. But we just heard from Fed President Goolsbee. Ghoul. You know what a ghoul is? A ghoul is an entity that robs graves and eats dead bodies. Well, Fed President Goolsbee just said, oh, this is beautiful. I have it right here. Headline from Fox Business. Can we see this? Goolsbee, he's promising the Fed's going to fix the economy. Oh, you mean the Fed's going to fix the economy? You see, what you're not supposed to know is presidents don't run the economy, although that's what we're being told. I'm going to fix the economy. It's central banks who run the economy, the markets, the financial system, but people have no clue. So it's easy for people to be lied to out of the mouths of prospective candidates here who don't have your best interest in mind whatsoever. It's the corporate agenda, period. And you need any proof. People, look around you. Look around you here. This market has been propped up on oceans of debt for the last three presidents, and that's all it's been is an illusion. Rah, 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 the stock market going higher and higher every freaking day. This is just, again, a mechanism here. We're a house of cards floating on an ocean of gasoline. It's going to go up, but not anytime soon, because they're still in here suppressing rates, promising us lower rates, promising us a weaker dollar. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody. It helps the corporate agenda. Period. Gone are the mom and pop shops. Why? Because trickle-down economics works so well. No, it doesn't. It fulfills the corporate structure, costs everybody else. And that's exactly what we're going to see here moving forward, no matter who is selected as the new president. I hope I covered a lot. I covered your question.
You did indeed. And let's zero in on that aspect of it, is that we perennially are being told this is the solution. First of all, the problem that was created by those in power then say, hey, since we all are now no longer able to deny that there's a problem, let's solve this, and here's the proposed solution. But the solution always benefits the same people that created the problem, the same organizations that created the problem, and still hurts more the people that are being told, okay, I guess we're just supposed to trust these people. What have they done to earn our trust? What have they done to betray our trust? And what should we be doing instead of what they're telling us? Because we can't stop them from doing what they're doing. They're going to do it anyway. But what can we do to protect ourselves as individuals, as households, as communities, as mom and pop shops in the face of this undermining and this betrayal by those who have appointed themselves as our overlords?
Well, look, man, people got to start just raising their awareness and start to speak up. If you happen to be at a Trump rally, or you happen to be at a Harris rally, and you hear them promising you lower rates or a weaker dollar, scream at the top of your lungs, does this help me? It doesn't help you, okay? But you get to cheering. I can't believe it. When I sit there and I flip through these things, I want to hear what's coming out of their mouths. It was Biden and now it's Harris and now it's Trump. They're the same message here. And the people sit there and they yell and scream and cheer for this. They're signing their own death warrant here. Okay. We do not need lower rates. They're already historically low. We do not need a weaker dollar. A weaker dollar, again, fulfills the corporate agenda. How does that help you? It kills the purchasing power of your currency. So really, you're expecting these same creatures? They're both creatures in my view. I hate the system and they're part of it. Okay. They're not out to save you. They're out to destroy you. And they got people by the throat. How they do it is, look, it's the art of the deal, and nobody is better at it than Trump here. The art of the deal. Have you ever read The Art of the Deal? It's a very interesting take on how to sell anything. It's a mixture of truth and maybe what are untruths here, and just putting them together in a certain way that people buy whatever you're trying to sell. And Trump is the king of this, but they all know how to do it. Harris is in it too. They're all involved. They're trying to sell us something that doesn't work, and people are buying it. Look at this other issue instead of focusing on the grander thing, which is destroying all of us here. And people, again, just like I said, they're walking themselves into a slaughterhouse. It's not going to change. Nothing is going to change moving forward. We're going to see massive currency devaluation. The central banks aren't going to change their grand plan, which is to suck the purchasing power out of their currency. They're all in a race to the bottom to see who can do it first. And with this issue, with this is the thing that gets to me more than anything else. So we just found out that mortgage rates just hit a 1-year low. Okay, the Fed's not cutting rates though. So how does that work? Oh, the Fed's buying it all right now, but they're not making the announcement yet. Wait till they make the announcement here that what they're doing is going to give themselves permission to buy it all. And how do they do that? They have to create cash out of nothing, which is massively purchasing power negative, and then get into the market and buy all the debt. It's a revolving door. I've been trying to explain this to people. They issue debt through one door by creating cash out of nothing, and they buy it back to another. And this mechanism here, and no one's got the guts to tell people the truth here. They're going to be sold the trickle-down economic lie. They're going to be told that weaker currencies are better for them, and they buy it, and they yell and scream and cheer. They're told that lower rates are better for them, and they yell and scream and cheer. They're idiots. And they're counting on what happens here is they got people so locked into some kind of a psyop. They don't know. People don't know what's going on here. Again, it's the art of the deal. Mix truths with untruths, and you can get people to believe anything. And this is the hallmark of what we've seen, I think, going back as far as you want to go, with world leaders who have led their people to the slaughter. And I mean in the literal sense. It's no different here. It's turned into some kind of a sitcom freak show on an epic scale. We're supposed to be people who can govern ourselves. We can't be free if we're forced to live under the rule and guide of a central bank. That's number one. We need to take back the system. No one's willing to take it down. People actually believe that Trump wants to destroy the Fed. Same thing they said last time. Of the 3 last presidents, none of the last 3 have empowered the Fed more than that guy. He borrowed more, helped them. He couldn't do it, obviously. Helped to pull more cash into the now with the Fed than the other 2 guys did. And then, of course, the Clodvax bioweapon, which has killed thousands of people. And but let's not talk about that either. It doesn't make people happy. Look, the system is too wrong, and people have been polarized. It's unbelievable what's going on here. We've never seen anything like this. We're seeing families fall apart. We're seeing friendships fall apart. This is exactly what they're doing by design here. It's to keep people divided. You can't form alliances. Again, the structure of society has come apart. And this is part of the grand plan. You know this better than anybody. They want division. They want hatred. They want confusion. They want struggle. They want people to struggle because, again, if they're struggling, then they can blame the other side for it. It's unbelievable. And but people don't get it, and they won't get it ever. There's a fraction of people, like those that follow our work, for example, who understand. The others will refuse to see the truth, even if it's glaring in their face. It's unbelievable, in my opinion.
I just finished an interview with Alistair MacLeod, the former bank director, and he talked about the riots that are going on in the UK and in France as well. And about this aspect that you just pointed out, that it plays right into the hand of the state for there to be clashes and riots and infighting between different factions, between different tribal groups and splinters of the population. Because then if it escalates up to the sufficient level, then the authorities have what appears to be a justifiable cause to come in and say, well, clearly we need to impose top-down control and tracing and tracking and everything and surveillance in order to quell this out of control populace. And so, as you point out, it's absolutely against the best interest of we the people for us to be at each other's throats, rather than to realize that we are not each other's enemies and we're being played. One of the things I wanted to get your take on this, because you've often held up silver coins when we've talked, and I wanted to show the audience this sound again.
Love it, man.
And these are mercury dimes. And And the funniest thing happened. I have the most insightful conversations with people when I'm talking with them about what's called junk silver or 90% silver constitutional currency, because they say, why should I have to pay $2.25 for a single dime? It makes no sense to most people. Can you talk about that cognitive sleight of hand, that magic trick that's been played on us for the last couple of generations, to where people don't understand that gold and silver, which were always constitutionally required by the Coinage Act of 1792 to be part of our currency, when that was taken out of our currency, how that disconnected us from reality, and how we have to get back to reality again.
First of all, your guest that you interview is 100% right. I've been telling people that's what they're going to do. They're trying to push us into this. Is all about control, and they want more control. And to get more control, they have to incite riots. They have to take the public down, and so they can issue in their new system. Their new system is going to require an outcry on a public scale that people are not going to believe. Again, it's problem, reaction, solution. The current environment is being deconstructed, and they're doing this methodically, piece by piece. And a big part of that was getting rid of constitutional money, going way back. This is a very long-term plan that has been put in effect over a century ago. And we are right now, I believe, at the end game. And what they need to do is, again, we're going to see, of course, more war, more pain, more suffering on a biblical level, of course. And I believe still we're going to see things that people aren't going to believe moving forward. Unfortunately, I think a vast majority of the population of this planet is going to be eliminated. It's easier to control a smaller group of people. We're already seeing right before our eyes an extinction level event. That is, of course, the middle class here, because trickle-down economics works so well. And that's what we're being sold by both Kamala and Trump right now. It plays right into the agenda of the extermination here, a neo-feudal system, which I've been warning about for I don't know how many years now. It's just out of control. And there's going to be rioting in the streets, pandemonium in the streets here, and give them a justifiable reason to take more away our liberties and freedoms. But what they're doing here, and a big part of this was taking away their constitutional money and adopting this fake, so let it be monetary system here run by the central banks, and people now are slaves to that system. Again, we went from a wealth-based system to a debt-based system. The system demands that more debt be pulled into the now in greater and greater amounts, and that's why we're seeing debts and deficits surge, and we haven't seen anything yet. The U.S. public debt skyrocketing. Why the last three presidents have played right into this, leading the people right to the slaughter, while at the same time having some kind of a psyop played on them via whatever it might be, some YouTubers or some other networks telling them the polar opposite is going to happen. It's a game on an epic scale. It really, really is. But unfortunately, what they're doing here is they must continue to institute trickle-down economics. That's why we're being sold this. Two keys to this are very simple to understand. It's exactly what we're hearing. That is a weaker currency and lower rates here. This empowers the central banks. It makes people more dependent on the system. They need to create dependency. I told people this is what's going to happen. You're going to see from years ago, I said the members of the middle class were going to fall through the cracks into the lower rung of society. Now they're dependent on the system. The reason why they're not ready to pull the plug on this yet is there's not enough dependency yet. They need an event to occur, and it's going to. That is going to, first of all, it's going to catch everyone by left field. This is why you got to be ready right here and right now for what is coming. And I mean, I don't just mean from a financial standpoint. I mean mentally, physically, spiritually, every aspect. You got to be prepared. Don't happen? Great. How does it hurt you? But if you're not ready for when this, first of all, it's like think of it this way. It's like a freight train coming at you that can't be stopped. It's unstoppable. And in fact, it's being fueled even more with calls for lower rates, with a weaker currency here. And it's accelerating, and it's going to hit all of us broadside with such ferocity that people are not going to know what happened to them. It's always the same story, but we've never seen this before, an environment like this. With regard to the financial system, it is so twisted. It is so distorted and disconnected from any kind of reality. And again, this had to happen because we had to be removed from a constitutional money, from real money, and being put on the system. That was the backbone of it. Once they had control of that, the control of the money, then or not what is now currency, it's not money, okay? That's it. Then they have us all in a headlock, which we cannot get out of, especially when we have world leaders all telling us the same thing, that this system works. It works for the 1% and 2%ers. It does not work for anybody else, quite obviously. And what I want people to do, look, I have friends all over the world. I'm sure you do too because of your blog. All right. Now, people around the world laugh at us. They can't believe how stupid we are. They feel like Americans are the most dumbed down on the planet. And I actually have to say that's actually true. People in the United States have been placed in little boxes. In other words, they can't think outside that box. Everything that's happening is just happening here in the United States. This is a worldwide event, people. Raise your awareness. Climb out of that box that you're being put into by the Harrises, by the Trumps. It's not just a United States American issue. This is a global problem that there is no solution because there's not enough people who follow our work. It's unbelievable, really, if you thought about it. If we were doing something ridiculous, licking toilet bowls, eating Tide Pods, we have millions of followers. But because you and I are out here talking about something that actually affects people's lives in a meaningful way and they could do something about it immediately, well, what do we got? Collectively, I got about 250,000. You got 100,000, you said. It's almost pathetic, really. We should have millions, but we don't. Because again, they've been indoctrinated. But the people who follow our work, they get it. And you know what? Maybe that's enough. Because if every revolution starts somewhere, and I believe people like you and me and the people that follow our work are the revolution. We are the solution. And we do this by explaining what's going on here boldly, very directly. And if it's going to hurt people's feelings because they are a Trump supporter or a House supporter, I don't really give a damn. Okay. Maybe they need the smack across the face to wake up and understand how they're being destroyed, not just by the Harrises or the Trumps or the Bidens or whoever it might be, but leaders around the world who are working with central banks who have their bases all over the world. But people don't understand this. It's a war. These central banks are in every continent around the world. That's their bases. They have a war against the people, and they are the government. Their goal has always been the same, to be the lenders and buyers of last resort, to own it all with the product that they created nothing. This is why we don't have constitutional money. They moved to this fiat system so they can buy it all with their product and give them permission to do it. Again, lower rates, weaker dollar, have leaders calling for the same thing. Nothing could make a central bank happier than hearing a prospective president saying, we need a weaker dollar. We need lower rates. And people are cheering for it. Help me. Someone out here who's smarter than Greg Mannarino, I'm sure that's all of you, explain this to me maybe as if I were a young child or a golden retriever. I just don't get it.
And Greg, in the past, when there's been this kind of volatility in our financial lives, you've talked about not being dissuaded, not being distracted by where we're being told to look, but instead watching the debt market, for example, for the signs of instability, et cetera. You've got the Mannarino Market Risk Indicator, MMRI, on your website that people can keep an eye on. In the past, when things were really going choppy a few years ago in the major indices in the US, you also told people, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, is what you had said at the time. And there were times when you actually were placing puts or call bets against the major indices or towards them, depending which way you felt was more likely, so people could follow you. Are you planning on doing that again? And if so, when? And if not, why not?
No, as I've become older, I've become more mellow, I think. And it's very difficult to play that game. And what I'm looking to do here is establish positions here that are going to pay me to own them. I own a lot of JEPI, and I'm building a position in JEPQ, which is getting pretty large, actually, as of right now. I just bought yesterday on that big sell-off here. And I intend to buy more moving forward. I like the cash flow there. I want that monthly dividend from that too. You need exposure across the board. Okay, I'm not telling people to go all in on anything. In my view, people need to understand where where they should be putting the currency to work here. And whether you're in the market, you need to at least have exposure to commodities here. As you said, silver, my favorite asset on the earth, bar none. It is the most undervalued asset on the planet. And there's number 2 right there, gold. I think commodities across the board are so incredibly undervalued based on global debt right now, and it's no accident why this is going on here. I also think people need just some exposure to cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, with Trump, with his Bitcoin president, crypto president, what he's saying about Bitcoin stockpile. I mean, look, I know the space isn't for everyone, and I know there was a time when Trump was an outspoken hater of Bitcoin and crypto, but he's turned around. He's turned around for some whatever reason, okay? And if he is selected, this is going to be a very good place to be in. If he's not selected, you can see the crypto space take a hit, absolutely, but I still think in the long run it's going much, much higher. But still, it doesn't change my perspective that I still feel silver is the place to be. If you had only enough cash, people, and this is just me, you do what you want, do your own research here, to just hold one thing, one and only, that would be silver. I mean, what I look at, and I don't just come up with this, people say, well, Greg, how do you come up with this stuff? It's just too easy, okay? I just look back on history. History is a good teacher, okay? I look at where the stock market is today. It's absolutely disconnected from reality because of easy money that's being pumped into it, and a lot more is going to be pumped into it moving forward. That means the price action distortions across the spectrum of assets classes is going to get much more dramatic. If we understand that, okay, that's an easy place for us to take advantage of it. But we also have to think about, okay, where's the bottom? We know it's nowhere near where we are. I just look at it this way. When the Fed stepped in here, it's too easy. Okay, when the Fed stepped in here with QE1, the Dow was cut in half. It went from 12,000 to 6,000 if they stepped in here with QE1. So is that a prospective bottom? Is it higher than that? Would the market have gone lower if the Fed didn't jump in? Obviously, yes. We probably would have went down to Dow 4,000, maybe even 3,000 at that point. But if we just can try to surmise where the bottom of the Dow is, let's say it's 8,000. I sincerely believe, through everything I look at and all the research that I have done, and look at this back on history, we are going to get a 1-to-1 ratio, gold Dow, meaning if Dow 8,000 happens when the debt market implodes, because everyone's staring at the stock market, okay? Because that's what the mainstream media wants you to look at. They don't even want people to look at the broader market or the S&P. It's just 30 companies. That should tell people something anyway. Look at the Dow. Look at the Dow. Dow's important, no doubt about it. But you should be looking at the broader market anyway. I just look at the Dow gold ratio. I believe this market is so massively overvalued that we really could see a full-on meltdown in the debt market, meaning debt will sell off. Yields are going to spike in a massive way, and that's going to put pressure on the stock markets around the world. All the cash is going to bleed out of it. Doesn't go to money heaven. It just flies into other assets, really. And I think it's going to go into suppressed assets here. So Dow gold ratio 1-to-1, Dow 8,000. I don't know. Let's say it's 10,000. I think gold's going to get to 10,000 or whatever it might be. Whatever the Dow bottom is at that point during a full-on meltdown in the debt market, which is where people should be looking. It's the debt market dictates everything. It's affecting everything, including the carry trade, including real estate, now all this kind of stuff. Everything is priced off of the debt market. In fact, everything could be considered a derivative then of what's happening here in the debt market. It's too easy. So understanding where the Dow could potentially go here, it just makes it a no-brainer to understand where you should be. And with regard to right now, the Dow gold ratio is, what is it, 60, 80, whatever it might be. We're going to go to 15-to-1, 10-to-1 in an extreme. So that's where I get this from. I don't pull it out of a hat. I don't even think about I tell you the truth here. I never even think about the price action of gold or silver or even commodities right now. I just know where it's eventually going to go. Commodities are real things. We're eventually going to see this come apart by design. And the other thing that people need to understand is this. The real issue, going back to the meltdown where the Fed stepped in with QE1, wasn't the market. It was not the market whatsoever. It was the fact that the system was locking. They had to. Why did Bernanke call this emergency meeting with our lovely, caring representatives to say if we don't start to pump cash into the system, we won't have an economy on Monday? That's what he said. In his exact words, they had to free up the credit markets. The system is debt-based. We all know that. The flow of credit, they called it credit, but it's debt. The flow of debt through the system, currency being a unit of debt, this was starting to lock up. Interbusiness lending was stopping. The whole system what this would have led to, had they not pumped billions into the system, is you would go to your bank. There'd be nothing but zeros. There'd be no cash able for you to pull out. The ATM machines won't work. Credit cards don't work. Oh, we are going to get there. And this is what they're going to pull off. This is where the outcry is going to come from. This is where they're leading to. We're going to get another credit freeze. There's no doubt about it. That's why the Fed's in here buying it all. Why the central banks are creating currency like there's no tomorrow. Look at the Fed's what they're doing here, the currency. They've expanded since February. We've watched it balloon, the monetary base. It's insane. What's going on here? Again, look, in a time where an economy is actually booming, you would expect the Fed to expand the money supply, right? But we're not. We have an economy, a world economy, that's contracting at its fastest pace we've ever seen. But we're being lied to by the financial channels, by this, telling us how great we're doing. We're the envy of the world. That was Biden. Remember that? It's unbelievable. We may be the prettiest lady at the ball, but by far, we're in a lot of trouble here. I know I'm going off, but I think we covered a lot of stuff, and I wanted to get it out there.
No, that's excellent, and absolutely important for people to realize that the the near lockup that we had before the global financial collapse was a liquidity crisis, a debt crisis, and that's where you're foreseeing the same problem on a much larger scale, a mammoth scale, will recur at some point. Between now and then, if people want to stay apprised of your perspective on this on a daily and weekly basis, where should they get plugged in?
Well, you can go to my website, traderschoice.net. But honestly, people, you can find me anywhere. Just Google me. Go to my YouTube channel. I do 2 videos per day. 2 a day. I do a pre-market, a post-market, and I even do one on Sunday. And I really am working as hard as I possibly can, as you are, bro, to keep people understanding what's happening. You know, look, you and me and the people that follow our work here, what are we doing? What are we trying to do? We're trying to make a positive difference. I really believe that. We have built a family, you and me, of it's not big, huge, but big enough here between the two of us, around 350,000 or a little bit more than that. These are people that understand what's going on. And like I said, every revolution starts with something, just something small. I sincerely believe that one person has the power to change this entire world. So imagine what we can do as a group if we all came together. We didn't allow them to divide us, lie to us, buy it, a hook, line, and sinker. Realize what's actually going on. We can make a difference. We're going to be the people with the best chance of getting through this, because I sincerely believe we are marching towards a worst case scenario, another credit freeze. But this time the solution is going to be a whole new system. They can't re-prop this one up. But that's it, bro.
Greg, as always, thanks for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you for having me.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.